From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Captain's Log Supplemental.
So, Miss Vicki.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember when we were watching those WRL events and some of those Grid Life events where you used to see the in-car video and it had like the cameras seeing front and back, but it also could see all the telemetry and everything that was going on?
Mm-hmm.
You know, most of the ones that we liked were taken by the Sentinel system. Remember James came on our podcast earlier?
Right.
You know, we have no excuse since he lent us one for trial and demonstration purposes. We should actually probably put that in one of our cars. Maybe two.
I really think we should.
I think we should.
I know.
Because then we'd look like the immature endurance racing team that we are. Oh, wait, I mispronounced that, didn't I? Sorry, my bad. We could
So what does the
have
Sentinel system do?
we could have 3 cameras with picture-in-picture. We could have, if we ever get the AIM system to work, open invitation to anybody from AIM to come on and give us a little bit of love. We need some help. And then we could have all our telemetry on there. And then we can have it streamed live into the paddock or around the world to our millions of fans. We're apparently very popular in Kenya right now. Don't know why, but that's fine. And it can integrate all the available race statistics from like Race Hero and everything. So we could actually see how we're doing on video. We wouldn't even have to carry around our phone anymore. Live.
I love it.
Dominating with Dawson.
Ben Dawson. I'm not sure. This is right down the alley, right down the middle for you.
Okay.
But I think you'll have some words of wisdom that'll surprise.
Oh, Phil's not. Yeah, I would be surprised if there's any words of wisdom rattling around here. So let's see what comes out.
So we had a podcast a couple weeks back on tires and using the tires, and
Good.
I listened to it after hosting it. And that's not to imply that I don't listen while I'm hosting, but it's hard to be thinking, conversating, and critical of whatever. But so new tires versus used tires versus old tires versus dead tires.
New tires versus used tires versus what? Old tires versus dead tires?
Versus dead.
When are they dead? What makes them dead?
Like heat cycled out. They're done.
Okay.
What would that feel like as a driver? Like, how do you know? Because if you don't, it's like if you make a change to a car, then you can tell what the change is. But a tire kind of gradually changes, and it could be several races or several race weekends before you have this entire lifespan. So,
yeah, I mean, it depends. It's very dependent on the tire you're talking about running. I mean, I think people that race Hoosiers and club racing will talk about the Hoosier tires being best on their first heat cycle and being, just falling off on pace and grip as that goes along. So to me, I can, if I'm racing a tire, a lot of us are used to racing on these 200 treadwear hand-cooked tires that will age out more likely than you ever are going to like wear them out as far as the tread going away or anything like that. They're more likely to kind of heat cycle out and just end up maybe in that dead tire category if you don't flat spot them. I mean, after you run, 5 test days after you've raced them a weekend or two, they might be kind of dead. So there is that kind of in the one end of the scale that a lot of us are used to with hand cooks. It's just kind of a tire that stays pretty flat and even as far as performance on pace, on the grip that you feel through the car. pretty much until they go away or till you ruin them doing something dumb. But
But
then again,
what does that feel like from a
sure.
driver's seat? Does it feel
Oh yeah,
like, it's because we always talk about greasy. I guess we probably should get into
right.
greasy, but what do you
Yeah, so I'm kind of getting there, just kind of trying to sort of set the guardrails of you got this
ah
one tire that doesn't feel like any different, and you got these other tires that are great and then rapidly sort of start falling off. So we talk about that. It happens on a glacial scale with the Hancooks or something like that, or a harder tire. But with a tire that's going to fall off more dramatically, like the set of these Hoosiers are reported to do. I've never owned a set of these Hoosiers, but we'll take people at their word and kind of talk about it from that reference point. So you have a tire that it's brand new. You know it's doing well because you can feel the grip, you can feel it bite when you ask it to turn in, or when you hook up coming out of a corner, you feel it bite and stick. So you can feel the grip when it's rotating the car well. The car is going where you want it to go. It's not a lot of work to put the car where it needs to be, and your lap times show that your car is running well. You're making good laps. You're in a good position in your class, right?
mhm.
Those
Mm-hmm.
references all sound pretty good. I'm on sticky brand new tires. They feel great. My times are great. When a tire starts to fall off and turn into a used tire, I'm not necessarily going to feel that because I'm going to still, in my mind, I'm going to be still trying to find all the good things that this tire is still doing. I'm still turning in pretty good. I'm still doing this. And in my mind, I'm still wanting to be that new tire. So I may not be letting myself acknowledge that I'm starting to feel losing a little bit of pace. The first thing I'm going to notice that this is turning into a used tire is I'm probably going to notice a little bit of pace fall off when I'm looking at my lap time.
Mhm.
So in my mind, I'm going to be still thinking this thing still feels new. I'm still wishing for this honeymoon period to not be over, but the lap timer is going to start telling me that hey, this honeymoon period's over. Whether it's all happening within the space of a session or a stint, or just over the life of this tower, you go out here and there as the tower gets older and older. So what are the phases? New, used,
Old.
old. I think by the time they're getting old, you're losing more and more of the function. It's taking a lot more work to put the car where it wants to go, where you need it to be. You're probably having to slow down more to get it there. So you're losing pace there. You're losing flexibility on where you put the car. You're probably less likely to make the car go wherever you want from any point in the track. You're probably having to start to stick to routes that'll still work and give you the best pace. But you're kind of probably starting to be limited on what works on and offline, as well as it did when the tire was new. So you're probably less flexible with what you can get away with, and you're probably having to drive just a more and more set lap. And if somebody messes that up for you, probably lose more pace.
Mhm.
That's what I'm starting to think about when I'm on old tires. Like I'm having to work harder. You're I would guess it on a lot of cars that like the ones that we drive, that one of the first things you might see when your tires are just genuinely old and unwilling to give you the grip they gave before is that you'll see a lot more understeer. What do you
Mm.
think about
So
that?
it's in turning, not braking.
Yeah, I think I would notice it more in being able to rotate the car more so than braking.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I do not think about tire wear in terms of braking a whole lot. But yeah, you're right. That's a factor. But I think I feel it more when I'm just pissy that it won't turn. But I don't notice it. I've never started thinking like, oh, these tires are worn. I should start backing my brake point up. I think you can still hit the
Notice
same brake point.
notice the surprised look on my face with that statement there.
I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Usually that still stays pretty constant in my experience. But it's more about being able to kind of hork the car in where you want it. I mean, eventually that will kind of can hurt you in traffic because if these tires are getting pretty bad. If I try to step out of the line and do this thing, I might get kind of caught out and lose even more pace if I try to step out and pull this pass off. That would have worked great when these tires were brand new, but now that they're getting pretty shot, it won't. But I have to say, I mean, for the most part, not many of us endurance racers ever get a tire to the point where it's that old. A lot of us will switch on new tires or rotate a set that far out to pasture just to be a tire for test days and days where you're out there doing a track event or something like that to test something else out.
Or going to a
Mm.
skid pad.
Yeah, or just your dumbass is flat spotted it by that point or something.
I've never done that. Oh, maybe I
Not
have.
your dumbass. I was saying the royal you're like me
Oh, the
and
royal you.
everybody I know. Yeah, the royal
Anybody want to raise
yours.
their hand? Anybody? Anyone?
Yes,
I'm
I've
raising my
roasted
hand.
I've roasted too many tires.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I guess the reason that we wanted to get into this a little bit was like if you watch head to head with Johnny Lieberman, Jason Camisa, and Randy Popst, or you watch the new Jason Camisa videos with Randy Popst, you'll hear Randy always say he gets his best out of the first lap. When, I'm not saying we drive like Randy Popst, but he noticed a difference between the first lap and the second and third lap. And I don't, at my level, notice that difference. And I wasn't sure if I wasn't paying attention to it.
I think, aren't they also, a lot of times the carts that they're taking out to the track are like manufacturing examples that come out there on some kind of super grippy, like
Yep.
Michelin Club Sport or something like that, which I think is the kind of tire that you could hit really hard and then feel a difference in. So I don't think that's something that you might feel in a 200, legit 200 tread wear tire.
Right.
But I also think that the game manufacturers play is they send out a vehicle on what they call a certain tire that may just be any damn thing. I mean, gumball, sticky ass tires. So yeah, I mean, I think they probably are sending those cars out on tires that are made to last a few laps at the hands of somebody like a Randy Popes, and then a journalist can drive them around all the rest of the day and not feel anything.
Yeah, I was just wondering if I was just not paying attention to the right aspect of the tire.
No. I think it's apples to dildos. It's
so to speak.
So to speak. Yeah. Yeah, so my guess is it has more to do with the kind of tires that show up at those kind of press event time attack shootouts. Let's do with the kind of tires that we race, and I mean also you're talking about Randy Pope is a guy who's done a lot of pro racing on very soft slick tires on series that were on TV for a half hour or something like that, and the tire needed to last a half hour. And I would imagine that should be the kind of tire that you go out there and blast your own ass out for everything you can do for the first lap or two in a sprint race on TV, and you kind of got what you got. And so I imagine that he probably is tuned in to driving the kind of tire that would have that kind of fall off. And club racing, that sort of thing. We talked about those Hoosiers that are allegedly only good for a cycle or two. So I think it's all different scales, and it depends on the type of tire you're talking about too. I don't think you should. I don't think you should go beating yourself up if you can't feel the fall off on a 200 tread wear tire after one lap. I don't think that's what he's talking about.
Miss Vicki, what about you? Do you feel tire differences?
Only when I flat spot them.
Only
when you feel it then.
Yeah.
It's got a real rhythm to it now.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Go with the beat.
Yeah. I think just towards the end of the day, sometimes they just feel a little bit more rolly.
Greasy.
Yeah, the car kind of. Sometimes, like the last race that I had, sometimes I felt the car like really sway, and I don't know if my edges were getting worn. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. In my limited knowledge when it comes to these things, as I'm still learning.
Well,
I don't know if the tires that lose their edge begin to kind of roll a little bit.
I guess let me go to Vicki first. When someone says the tires are getting greasy or the track is getting greasy, what does that mean to you? Like, what do you think you're going to be feeling? Yeah.
It means I'm losing grip.
Everywhere?
No, not everywhere. I would say mostly on areas that braking areas, especially on tight turns when, people have kind of like rotated the tires, to go around. I just, sometimes I think that either the track gets hot and greasy and the rubber from other tires start to stick. Thompson's really famous for that, like on turn 4.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's also August.
Yeah, in August. So there's a lot of pebbling, and that's just a really anytime that you're kind of going around anything fast with like a dog leg, or is that a dog, right? Dog leg turn, is that what they call it?
It's a 180-degree turn.
Yeah. But I mean, anything with something that's really sharp and everybody's kind of whipping around, the tires start to really, lose rubber there. So,
do you have a tough time braking and getting turned in? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, everybody's kind of, yeah. Well, I mean, in our circuit, especially when you're racing with like 120 cars, I mean, there's a lot of cars doing that. A lot of cars dropping rubber.
So are you saying the car doesn't brake and enter the turn, or are you saying you feel it in the middle of the turn or the exit?
During the turn.
Middle, right?
Yeah, usually around the middle.
Okay. Well, luckily for you, Miss Vicki.
Okay.
With Dominating with Dawson, we have somebody on here named Dawson.
Yeah.
Mr. Dawson, what does greasy mean to you?
I think I'm always using the word skatey, but just slippery. If it does things that you should feel solid, like you should feel solid exiting this turn. If it feels a little bit slippery or entering a turn, you should have good grip, and the car should willingly follow your input, but instead it's kind of slipping and sliding. That's what greasy feels like to me. What does it feel like to you?
Well, I kind of think from the people I talk to, there's two different things that are both called greasy, and I'm not sure they're the same.
Yeah, where are the two?
So, if you're in a high G turn, it could be a long sweeper that you're just right at the edge, or like Miss Vicky's example of Thompson 4, which is a fairly short mouth not working, not good for podcasting, fairly short radius 180-degree turn that you're in for a little bit of time. The car kind of feels unstable and kind of, people from Philly like the word slippy. It kind of almost starts drifting, and you're at a speed where you just did this before, or you did this yesterday, or whatever.
Drifting, like with the butt end coming out.
No, all four. Like they're kind of walking around as opposed to carving for the skiers at home. And then there's the time when the track gets really hot and the oils start to come out and the rubber starts, I don't know if the rubber comes out, but something, and the entire track itself is kind of slippy. I'm doing my Philly.
Yeah, that's what when I'm saying greasy, that's what I'm thinking about. The entire track is usually, I don't know. I guess the car the car can feel that way, or could be something like this most past the most recent time I raced with Laser Shark, and they had the wheel bearing going bad. The car never felt solid. It never felt planted when I tried to turn it in. It always felt kind of squishy and slippy. So that in that case, the car itself felt like that. And everybody was like, but also everybody was also talking about the track being greasy that weekend. Which usually I hear a bunch of racers that talk about that. I'm like, shut up. You don't even know what you're talking about. But in this case, the car itself is doing that. The track also may have been kind of slippery, but I never really had a chance to get past how slippery the car felt. But yeah, well, I guess I do think of it kind of in both ways. In that kind of case, to me, I would have said the car felt kind of skatey. But if I've been out there,
so you wouldn't say slippery.
If I've been out there in a car that I knew was sound and solid and still felt like I was sliding around in places where I should have had grip, like for instance, coming out of the kink at CMP with that car, I came out one time. I was letting up more than I had been, trying to make sure I came out okay. And I came out one time at a pretty normal speed, and I just couldn't get the car to get turned back, and just drove right off the track after the kink, straight off to the left. Luckily, it was just totally nonviolent. I could tell that it was about to happen, so I just kind of straightened the wheel. But this is a car that didn't have all the grip it was supposed to have, and I couldn't get it to turn. And even to that point, it felt like the track was too greasy to get turned in. But it turned out it was more of an issue with the vehicle. But yes, I think two different things can happen to cause that slippy, greasy feeling. It can be something that's happening with your car, or something that's happening with the track. But you're talking about in a long sweeper or in a hairpin, where would you get that kind of unsteady feeling? Would it happen over and over, or just every once in a while? What are we talking about?
Well, that's the thing. If it's the track, let's say it's the track in quotes, right? And the track is greasy, then I'm going to see it lap after lap in more than one spot, most likely. But there's another type of greasy where it's driver induced and you've been over driving the tires and the tires are too hot And then I always try to figure out, is it me or is it the tires or the track? And if it's me,
how are we measuring the heat in the tires at that moment? How do we know they're too hot?
Well, that's kind of when experimental Bill pops in and says, all right, let me back off for a lap or two. Not 15 seconds back off, but just, not go all the way out and see if I have to cool off my tires. Now, some of the tires we have, they don't cool off at all. And some of the tires we have, they'll come back in. And if it comes back in, then I know, hey, I'm asking too much of the tire, and I must accommodate what the tire is willing to give me today in order for us to have optimum tire usage and times, and give the car to one of my fellow teammates that's still somewhat functional. Or, hey, it's just the track or the tires today are, maybe they're aging out. Maybe the track is just super hot and giving off some liquid. Maybe, and I know it's hard to imagine that at our level of racing this could happen. Maybe a car has put some fluid down in a specific spot and added to the degree of fun. But usually when there's fluid down, it is a much more pronounced roller coaster ride as opposed to a wiggle. So make sure you're not doing it to yourself. It's kind of the moral.
Well, I have a follow-up question to that, because all the stuff that you were describing as far as the car being out of sorts and maybe kind of bucking and being unsteady. When you first said that, I didn't think about tire temperature first off. I thought about timing. I started to wonder if maybe the performance of the tire has changed, or the track has got a different condition, and maybe an adjustment to my timing is needed. If the car's reacting that badly to what I'm asking it to do, maybe I should change the timing or the rate of what I'm asking it to do, or something like that. I think that's what I would be thinking about before. I'll be thinking like, hey, these tires must be borked up. I think one of the things that you might be getting as a side effect of, checking up a little bit for a lap, not trying to go full extension, just being there, sort of resetting everything, is that you may come back and you may have had a reset to your timing, a reset to your approach, and maybe that may have just as good an effect as the momentary cooling down of your tires. Because I have often kind of asserted that I don't really think you can overdo it too much on most of these 200 tread wear tires, unless there are comps that some unscrupulous company just slaps some grooves in, which some of them are. Some of them are, but if you're on a legit 200 tread wear tire like the Falcon or the Hankook, I think you really got to be an extremely aggressive driver to be overheating them. And I don't know that a lot of us would do anything that extreme to those tires. So my guess is that it might be that the tire is aging out at that point, or something's changing in the car. You might be at a different fuel load, so you might need to adjust how you're doing, because you burned off all the fuel from whatever wacky fuel location that has it in that truck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Miss Vicki remembers the truck getting a little tail happy when the
that's
so there could be other things going on that may not be the heat in your tires, because I think you'd have to be going pretty nuts in the kind of cars we drive to really overheat a tire bad enough where we're going that bad. But also, I know that, Bill, you're an advanced enough guy science-wise that you could throw some heat sensors, some real-time heat sensors inside the tire or something like that, and we could really find out. But if I'm wrong, I'll eat crow. But my guess is just as likely as it being heat in the tires, it just might be a timing and rate adjustment that might be needed.
I think the overheating example I was using was the true race tires, where you can actually heat them out.
That is a factor.
Yeah. So the moral to the story, let's try and sum this up, shall we? Pretend it's a podcast episode. It may be the tires, it may be the track, or it may be you.
Check it all out, right?
And only you can prevent forest fires. Oh wait, no,
so
wrong podcast.
Very poignant. Very poignant.
So, when you're early in your racing career and your racing education, you're taught to do the same thing over and over and over, and repeat your line and turn in at the same spot and brake at the same spot. And sometimes as you progress, you may find times in your racing life, I would argue that almost all the time, where you should kind of experiment a little bit and see if you could get a little more, or see if you got too much sometimes, and
I agree,
adjust. So that's what makes it fun.
Absolutely. Trying to get what you can get every time you go around. not always going to be the same thing.
Nope. Miss Vicki, you good?
I am good.
All right, very well. Mr. Dawson?
I am good.
Excellent.
Mhm.
You know what? I have this, when we do the episodes, every now and then I get this feeling like we did not cover this. We missed
Yeah, I'm
something.
like, what were we talking about? So yeah, tell us what we missed.
So let us know. Say,
Yeah.
hey, dummy. And I'll know they're talking to me. Or, hey,
Or
Latin
me.
major. And they're talking to Ben. And tell us what we
That's
missed.
right.
Because,
Yep.
we never even got into storage tips and wives' tales about tires. We can do that
Mhm.
next time. So let us know.
They are photosensitive. That's all I got to say.
Mhm.
Yep.
That's right. They're very shy. They don't like paparazzi. Thank you, Ben.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.